Thank you for joining us today for another exclusive interview sponsored by Immovet. Help your horses reach their maximum potential with Immovet's line of natural homeopathic products. I'm your host today, Aurelian Drumia. Today we are excited to have Matt Coleman, a renowned bloodstock agent from Strat Coleman Bloodstock, with us. Join us as we discuss his early influences in horse racing, the motivation behind his career, and his selection process at the Arcana Breeze-Up sale. We'll dive into the exciting prospect of Lot 127, his experiences with past sales, and insights on innovation and growth within the thoroughbred industry. Stay tuned for an engaging conversation with a key figure in bloodstock. So Matt, great to have you here, first of all.
Good to see you, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your early influences in horse racing and bloodstock?
Well, that goes back to when I was very small. I was actually born in Australia, and my father used to take me to the races when I was just still in a pram, still in nappies or diapers.
Oh, wow.
So I used to go to the Flemington Racecourse in Melbourne when I was very small, and then my parents moved to the United Kingdom when I was 5. So that was 1983. And then if I wasn't playing sport weekend at school, then I always went to the races with my dad. Dad never worked in the industry, but it's always his hobby. And I just grew a love of the sport, from then. And then after I did my education, finished university, I worked for the British Horse Racing Authority in London for 4 years. And then after that, I got a place on the Godolphin Flying Start program. That's a wonderful program hosted by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed. And I did 2 years working on Dali stud farms for trainers around the world. And then I was fortunate enough that at the end of the 2-year internship, I was offered a job by Anthony Stroud to be his assistant. And that was 18 years ago, I think. And now we're business partners, and I've been there ever since. So I just started as Anthony's assistant, and I've just built a client base up myself from there. But I was fortunate enough Anthony gave me a job. I did 1 sales season with him, and that went quite well. And then a few of the early horses I bought did quite well on the racetrack. And then I'm still there 18 years later.
That's amazing. So it's all started from a family hobby, I guess, not even a family business, family hobby, which is great.
Dad's never worked in it. I mean, he and I own a few brood mares together and have owned a few racehorses together, but he's never worked in it. So I had a choice when I finished university, either to go into the city to work in finance or to go into horse racing. And since racing was my passion, I thought I'd give it a try, and managed to make my way in the industry, which is great.
That's great. How did all of those experiences kind of shape your approach today?
Well, the way I learned how to look at horses firstly was just by seeing them in the paddock before a race meeting. So if there was a 2-year-old maiden, I'd be trying to select the winner from the paddock. So I'd learn to go and look at the horses in the paddock and get an idea for what horses look like they could run, and maybe having a bet or two and trying to pick out the horses that way. So that was how I first got into educating myself about how to look at horses. And even now, when I select a horse, I always go to the parade ring at the auction before the horse goes into the sales ring, because my eye is trained to how I look at a horse at a race meeting in the paddock at the races. So I still, obviously I look at the horse beforehand, but I'd always go and look at them again, particularly a horse that hasn't, be it a foal or a yearling or a breeze-up horse. I'd always go and look at the horse in the parade ring at the sale, because that's how my eye is trained, and so that will give me my final impression before I buy the horse.
Excellent. What motivated you to pursue a career, as a bloodstock consultant, specifically, eventually forming, Stroud Coleman Bloodstock?
Yeah, I didn't. The truthful answer is I didn't plan that. I always had a really strong knowledge of form and pedigrees. I wasn't a particularly horsey person. I could ride a little bit, but I was more into the form, analyzing races, looking at the pedigrees. And so at the end of the Godolphin Flying Start, I was just lucky that I got offered a job by Anthony Stroud, and I really didn't have any intention of getting into bloodstock. I didn't really have any plan what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be part of the racing and bloodstock industry, and I was just fortunate that Anthony offered me the job, and yeah, I literally fell into it rather than had the plan to do it. And I think because I had a good knowledge of form, particularly, and pedigrees, I maybe brought a different angle to the bloodstock world than other people who have sort of worked on stud farms and are more from a horse orientated background. Whereas my background was more form analysis, pedigree analysis, that kind of thing. So yeah, I maybe brought a little bit of a different angle, and I've managed to grow my client base that way. And obviously, you develop an eye for a horse, and yeah, it's just I've developed it naturally. I've not particularly gone looking for it. It just sort of fell my way, and I've managed to buy some good horses, and then through word of mouth, you get other clients. So I've just been fortunate that way.
Excellent. I guess it's all about skilled, acquired throughout experiences, I would imagine, like many different industries.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you like us all, you learn by the good days and the mistakes. So when you buy a horse that's good, or you see someone else that buys a horse that's good, I'd always be analyzing, why did I buy that horse, or why didn't I buy that horse, or that I think I always try and look, if a horse wins a big race, I always try and look back at my notes at this from the sale, and the horses I've bought that have won big races, you try and think, what makes that horse good, and then you try and apply those skills the next time. Obviously, buying horses is not an exact science, and you need plenty of good fortune as well. But equally, over the years, I've grown an eye for a horse, and so I can see in a horse what I like, and then that often translates to then good performance on the racetrack. And equally, if you're buying a horse that's already raced, the way to analyze different races, analyze form, analyze pedigrees. So there's numerous facets to trying to buy a good horse.
All right, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Arcana Breeze Up sale. So you bought some amazing horses there, and I'm sure you know the process has a lot of intangibles. But when it comes to the tangibles, could you tell us a little bit more about your selection and buying process? What makes a horse special, the pedigree, nicks, confirmation, breeze up performance, timing, or maybe something else for you?
Well, I'd say the answer is all of the factors you've mentioned have a part to play. Obviously, pre-sale, I'd have a look through the catalogue and would pick out any pedigrees that particularly appeal to me.
Sure.
And as you say, nick, sometimes you see a nick that a sire has worked particularly well, either with that broodmare sire or with that longer female pedigree. For example, sometimes you might see that a sire has produced a group winning horse in that pedigree. So sometimes those things repeat in a family. So just maybe to spot any interesting patterns in a pedigree before we go to the sale. Also the vendors, because Anthony and I have been doing this a long time. The vendors would kind of promote their better horses to us. So maybe pre-sale, at some of the previous sales, they might have said, "Oh, Matt or Anthony, I've got this really smart horse in Arcana by X, Y, or Z." So that would stick in your mind. And then you watch we do look at quite a lot of the horses before they breeze, time permitting, and then we would watch the breeze. The breeze for me is quite a lot on my eye. I would watch it, watch each horse intently and make notes as each horse goes past, and I'd go quite a lot on that in terms of the horse's attitude, how he took the breeze in terms of whether he got very upset beforehand or was very keen in the breeze, or whether he sweats or anything like that. And then we get the times and the stride length and all that kind of thing. So that goes into it. And then you go and look at the horses, physical specimens, see how sound they are, trot them up after the breeze, and then talk to the vendors quite a lot about the horses they like and the horses they don't. And obviously, we'd ask a vet to inspect the horses that we like. And then at the end of the day, it's about having sufficient money.
Sure.
Anthony's very fortunate that he buys for His Highness Sheikh Mohammed for Godolphin, and he buys for some of the Bahraini sheikhs. So he often has bigger budgets to spend than I do. So I sometimes have to sort of think outside the box a little bit to try and find the horses that I like that maybe aren't super obvious to everyone else. I've had a bit of luck over the years from breeze up sales buying. I've had some very good horses who have won Group Ones by unusual stallions. So I just try and find an angle, be it the horse, the pedigree from the consigner, or some reason why the horse might be good that other people might not have thought of. Because once the times come out for the breeze, everyone can see, time 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at the top, and they always, unless the horse has a problem, they always make lots of money. So I need to find something that's a little bit different.
Very interesting. Let's talk about lot 127. What makes this lot exciting prospect from a pedigree perspective?
Well, he's by New Bay, who's obviously a very proven sire of Group 1 performers around the world. New Bay won the French Derby, stands at Ballylynch Stud in Ireland, and he's produced a number of top horses around the world, number of Group 1 winners. So he's a sire that I've always keep a close eye on his stock. And this horse is out of a mare by Galileo, who obviously Galileo is probably the most important brood or most important sire and also broodmare sire of our time in horse racing. So any horse that's out of a Galileo mare instantaneously would get my attention. And in addition to that, he's from a very good Wildenstein pedigree. Anthony actually used to do a lot of work for Dayton Investments Limited, one part of that family. So we know those Wildenstein pedigrees quite well. It's a family of Louvre and that wonderful L family from the Wildenstein pedigree. So I knew that back family quite well. And to be honest, Connor Hoban, who breezed the horse, had been recommending the horse for quite a long time. He'd done some very smart pieces of work. He actually didn't breeze that quick. If you see on the times, he was more a progressive breeze rather than particularly fast. But I was buying him to be, I'm hoping he'll be a wonderful 1.5 mile horse for 3-year-old and future years. So I wasn't necessarily expecting him to breeze quick, because if you're buying a 1.5 mile horse in a breeze up sale where they breeze over 2 furlongs, I'd be forgiving of a stayer that breezes slow. So he just breezed nicely. He had a very good stride, and he was very progressive through the breeze. And he's just a fabulous horse to look at. So it was a combination of factors, and I think he was a horse that he actually made more money than I expected him to, but equally he actually, more people found him than I thought they would. But he was such a good looking horse, and I think Connor had recommended the horse so well that he caught people's attention. So we had to go quite strong on the budget, but we managed to secure him. So fingers crossed he works out. We've actually turned him out on a farm in a paddock for a month after the sale, because he's a big horse. He's a staying type of horse, and he'll be very much a horse to run at the end of the season, and then as a 3, 4, and 5-year-old, hopefully. So we've given him a month holiday after the sale, and then he'll go to trainer Amy Murphy in Newmarket, and probably start his training in July, and then we'll build forward from there, and hopefully he can race sort of September, October this year.
Excellent. It's very interesting because it seems very much of a team effort, even into purchasing horses.
Yeah, I mean, very much a team effort. I mean, I often work with different trainers, and I'd always ask the trainer their opinion, and we'd swap ideas. And Anthony and I would always swap ideas. We'd sit down before every sale and go through all the horses we like and discuss ideas about which horse might suit which client and how much the horse will make. And obviously we all have different ideas and pick up different bits of information. So Anthony might hear something that I don't hear, or I might know something on the pedigree that he doesn't know. So we swap ideas that way. And then we talk to our clients. Obviously certain owners or trainers have preference for certain type of horse, or off certain vendors or certain pedigrees. So it's all a mixture of knowledge and information. And I always think 2 or 3 heads are better than 1 head when you come to buying a horse, because people, the trainer might spot something with a horse I didn't spot, and I might know something that he doesn't know, he or she doesn't know. So it's all a mixture of information.
Right. What has your past experience been with this sale? Could you tell us about some of your successful graduates from this sale?
Yeah, it's Arcana is certainly one of the premier breeze up sales in Europe. It's later on in the season. It's in the middle of May, so that the vendors tend to target it with a horse who maybe would run a little bit further, 7 furlongs a mile, mile and a quarter, rather than the earlier sales at Doncaster and at the Tattersalls Craven sale. They tend to be for the earlier, sharper 2-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse at Arcana tends to have a bit more size and scope, and also might be a horse that perhaps hasn't been pushed quite as hard to do a fast time as might happen with some of the earlier fast, smaller 2-year-olds. So Arcana's a sale always has plenty of quality with the pedigrees, plenty of quality with the specimens. It's been a lucky sale for us. Probably the best horse I bought was a horse called Robin of Navan, who didn't cost much money, cost 47,000 euros a few years ago. Bought him for a syndicate with Harry Dunlop, the trainer, and he managed to win a Group 3 and a Group 1 as a 2-year-old, and went on to success in big races all across Europe. So yeah, Robin of Navan he was by American Post, who I mentioned earlier. I've had a bit of luck buying some good breeze up horses by Unusual Stallions, and American Post was a successful but fairly small time French stallion. And yeah, Harry Dunlop and I bought him a few years ago off Conmanan of Bancher House Stables, and yeah, Robin of Navan went on to win some big races. He won a Group 1 as a 2-year-old, and won a number of group races as a 3 and 4-year-old. So he's a fantastic horse, and yeah, he's probably the best news story I've had out of the sale.
That sounds fantastic indeed. Will you be attending any other sales in 2024? And if yes, which ones?
Yeah, I mean, I go to almost every flat and jump sale in Europe. So I mean, I buy flat and jumps horses, and yeah, I'd go to all the sales, pretty much all the sales in England, Ireland, France, Germany. So yeah, if there's a sale on, I'm usually at it. And I buy horses at all levels of the market. I might buy horses for small money, I might buy horses for big money, but I work hard, and I sort of research every sale, and I'm very much a believer that a good horse can come from anywhere. So just because a sale is small or maybe has lesser pedigrees, there's usually a good horse in every sale. So I try and work most of the sales hard, and yeah, I have clients at various different budgets with various different plans and goals. So I go to most of the sales in Europe.
Is there any like a specific sale that really gets you excited?
Any sale where I buy a good horse gets me excited. But,
No.
I mean, I'm very much driven by having success on the racetrack. So yeah, I mean, in terms of obviously Deauville in France, where that sale was, is a wonderful place to visit. As is Baden-Baden in Germany is another wonderful yearling sale that I go to sort of at the end of August. And it's they're probably the two most enjoyable locations to visit. But yeah, I mean, obviously the yearling sales are fantastic all around Europe. It really gives you a chance to see the top bloodstock in England and Ireland and France and Germany. And yeah, I don't really have a particularly favorite sale, but I guess Deauville and Baden-Baden are the two most glamorous locations to visit. But obviously the yearling sales in Goffs in Ireland, in Tattersalls in Newmarket, Doncaster in England, and in Arcana, they're basically the best bloodstock Europe has to offer. So it's they're the best sales. Probably the yearling sales are probably the most interesting.
Excellent. And finally, on to the last question. Where do you see innovation and growth, specifically within the thoroughbred industry?
I mean, a lot of the growth is coming from the Middle East now. Obviously, Dubai, Bahrain, Qatar, those parts of the world are becoming increasingly big players in our sport. Godolphin obviously have been doing that a long time, but you've seen Wathnan Racing from Qatar are now making a big splash, and the Bahrainis that Anthony buys for, who own the likes of Van Dijk and some other very good horses. The Bahraini sheikhs are really getting involved as well. So the growth area is certainly the Middle East. In terms of innovation, I think all of us are becoming more savvy with analyzing form, and certainly the breeze ups. There's all sorts of information about stride length and pedigree, and and the sectional times of the breeze ups, and just the way people analyze horse racing. Now involves stride length and sectional timing and all those kind of things. So there's a lot more data than there used to be when I first started doing this job. And there's lots of people that spend a lot of time and money on all sorts of different types of innovation. So it's definitely becoming more data based and more technological. But at the end of the day, having a good eye for a horse is still very important. So I mean, you can do all the data analysis you want, but being able to see a good horse and spot an angle that other people can't is still gonna prove beneficial.
Fair enough. How would you see this industry evolving? Just my personal question, with the younger generation.
I think that's one of the challenges is to get the younger generation involved in horse racing. I think definitely in the UK, there's definitely an aging demographic of owners and race goers. So that's one of the big challenges is to get young people involved in racing. And I think we all need to do that in order to preserve the future of the horse racing industry. But equally, there are a lot of young owners who are getting into the sport, young breeders. And if you come around the sales in Europe, there's a lot of young people, English, Irish, French, who are getting involved in the industry, buying horses, selling horses. So I think it is in quite a healthy state, Europe, on a European and global basis. Obviously, we have a lot of challenges in Europe, or certainly in the UK, in terms of prize money. We need to get the prize money up because compared to other countries in the world, it's not great. But equally, we do have some of the best horses in the world. So our horses are always going to be of attraction to the overseas marketplace. But yeah, I mean, anything we can do to attract young breeders and young race goers, I think is very important.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for this interview. That was great, Matt.
No problem. Thanks very much.